Buddy DiLiberto and I did shows, and Madden twice came on, told us his story about he was the only coach in the NFL at that time before he got into broadcasting. Terry O'Neill was the guy that really talked him into it. Terry was at one time the vice president of the Saints, but Terry ran CBS and NBC Sports, and I think at the end he was head of ABC News before he came to the Saints. Mike Ditka was the one who really pushed him into that. And so I knew the backstory of it through Terry, and John didn't have a radio or television show as a head coach.
Wow.
But Terry saw that he had the chops and that he could express himself, in a way that the audience would like. And Terry said at first it really didn't click, but he said, after a while, you sort of got used to how he was, and then he became the personality that we all think about. And John sort of repeated the exact same thing Terry O'Neill had told me about how he got started, and he's coached some of the unbelievable personalities, and we had a couple guys from the city of New Orleans that had played for him, and Billy Cannon, he did a couple of shows with us, and he talked about John as an assistant coach, and he said at that time I knew he'd be a head coach in the NFL somewhere, but he said I knew he'd be a head coach just by the way he interacted with players and the way things were. So didn't get to really say meet him, but we did a couple interviews with John, and man, the John Madden you saw on television was the John Madden you did the radio show with. It was nothing different.
That's so cool. You've lived a good one, Mike D. Mike Detillier on the Out of Bounds show. He's met everybody and got to interview the late great John Madden, who made game day so awesome for so many of us.
He told the story. He almost came to the Saints as an assistant coach. Tom Fears, because Tom grew up in California, and he was a star player with the Rams. Then became an assistant coach with Vince Lombardi and the Packers, and he became the Saints' first coach. Well, John and Tom Fears knew each other really well, and John wasn't sure he'd get his shot with the Raiders as a head coach. And Tom Fears made him an offer to come be the defensive coordinator with the Saints in the 60s. I think it was 68 or 67. And John told him, no, I'm not going to do it. And he said, I'm going to stay. He said, but I did think about it because, it was a basic expansion team. And I thought, hey, I can make my mark here. But he said, after thinking about it, and he said, I saw that John Rawls, who was the head coach at that time with the Raiders, him and Al, they didn't really quite see eye to eye on a lot of things. And then Roush bolted. He left the Raiders and became the head coach of the Buffalo Bills, and that opened the door for Madden. But